After 25 years in the branding business, we've pretty much seen it all here at Studio D. The same challenges come up over and over again. So today, we wanted to pull back the curtain and share some unfiltered truths about what businesses really go through when it comes to branding. All right, let's jump in. And this, right here, this is the core of it all. The most important, most critical parts of what we do are invisible to most people. And look, that's not a criticism at all. It makes perfect sense. If you're a genius at finance or engineering, why on earth would you also be an expert in branding? You shouldn't have to be. And that's really the idea we're going to unpack today. So let's get into part one, why branding can feel so incredibly hard. This is usually the first big wall people hit, just identifying the need in the first place. We're going to break down 4 big reasons why this is such a common struggle. First up, number 1, the ROI dilemma. The impact of branding isn't something you can easily track in a spreadsheet. Because of that, the investment can feel like a huge, expensive gamble, and that makes it a really tough pill to swallow. This problem is kind of like a two-sided coin. For a brand new company, spending that precious early-stage cash on something abstract like brand equity can feel, well, it can feel like a scam when you're not seeing a direct, predictable return. But then you have established, successful businesses. For them, the brand's value is so baked into their success that it's completely invisible. You can't draw a straight line and say, our brand strategy grew sales by 15%, so its massive value just gets taken for granted. All right, number 2. This is a big one. It's a myth we hear all the time. The idea that if you just have a great product, it should sell itself. No branding, no marketing needed. But let's be real, that's just not how the world works. We've all seen it, right? Mediocre products with amazing branding absolutely dominate the market. Meanwhile, some truly game-changing innovations stay completely unknown because they never bothered to tell their story. And that's why we believe this work is so important. It's about making sure that truly valuable stuff gets the attention it actually deserves. Okay, point number 3 is what we call the no urgency trap. This is super common with stable, profitable businesses. They're running on that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. When the money's coming in and things feel good, investing in your brand never feels like a fire you have to put out. But that creates this really dangerous false sense of security. Because while things seem fine on the surface, your market position, your relevance, it can all be slowly, quietly eroding underneath. Trust us, we've seen it happen again and again. Waiting for a crisis to force you to rebrand is a recipe for decline. And the 4th challenge in this section is a tricky one. Businesses often don't actually know what their real problem is. So a client will come to us and say something very specific, like, hey, we need a new logo. But think about it. That's kind of like walking into a doctor's office and demanding a specific prescription without ever getting a diagnosis. A logo is a tool, it's an outcome, but is it the right tool for the problem you're trying to solve? Our first job as your branding partner is to be the diagnostician, to figure out the real business challenge before we even think about prescribing a solution. Okay, so let's say a business gets past that first hurdle. They've decided to invest. Now they're in part 2, the search for the right agency. And believe me, this part is a minefield all its own. We've got 5 more common hurdles here. This brings us to challenge number 5. Most businesses don't actually know what real branding even is, and that's because the market is just absolutely flooded with confusion. Anybody with a laptop and some design software can sell you branding. They'll give you a logo, a website, but those are just fragments. Real branding is the deep, strategic work. It's about positioning, about shaping perception, about creating long-term value. And for someone who's not an expert, telling the difference between the two is almost impossible. It makes the whole decision feel like a total shot in the dark. And that confusion leads right into myth number 6, the idea that you have to hire an agency that only works in your specific industry. Now look, a little domain knowledge is helpful, sure, but the core principles of great branding, they're universal. The real skill is strategic thinking, and a great agency can get up to speed on the nuances of any industry, fast. And that brings us to myth number 7, which is all about cost. People ask, why should I pay a premium for a logo when I can get one for $50 online? They see the logo as a commodity, just a file. But what they're missing is that a logo from a strategic agency is just the tiny, visible tip of a massive iceberg. The real value, the thing you're actually paying for, is all the work that's unseen, the research, the strategy, the deep thinking that makes sure that design will actually work for your business. So, with all this uncertainty, how do a lot of bigger companies cope? Well, that leads to problem number 8, the big agency shortcut. They just write a massive check to some famous global agency because, hey, it feels like the safe bet, right? But here's the thing we really want you to know. Branding excellence doesn't just live in giant agencies. Oftentimes, boutique studios deliver work that's just as good, if not better, and you get way more personal attention and, frankly, better value. The size of an agency's office is not a measure of its strategic firepower. And all of this can lead to challenge number 9, a really painful cycle we call proposal hunting paralysis. See if this sounds familiar. You hunt down a bunch of proposals, then you're just drowning, trying to compare these wildly different options. That leads to decision fatigue, maybe some sticker shock, and in the end, nothing happens. The whole project just stalls out.
And that takes us to the final, and maybe the most difficult part of the whole process. Once you've finally picked someone, you face part 3, the challenge of actually trusting the experts.
This brings us to our final challenge, number 10. And this one might sound a little weird at first. You are not supposed to be an expert in judging branding quality, and that is 100% okay. Expecting a CEO to evaluate strategic design is like asking them to read their own MRI scan. It's not their job. The real danger happens when decisions get made based on someone's personal taste, or even worse, by a committee of people who aren't experts. That's how you end up with a brand that just looks nice instead of one that is strategically effective and actually does a job for the business. At the end of the day, you have to remember this is a specialist's field. The goal isn't for you to become a design critic. It's to find an expert you trust to deliver a business result. So, after hearing all of these challenges, all these pitfalls, the big question on everyone's mind is pretty obvious, right? Is there a better way? Is there some kind of formula for getting this right? I mean, is there really a foolproof formula out there to pick the right partner and just guarantee success? Well, here's the uncomfortable but honest truth. No, there isn't one. There's no checklist. If you're not an expert in the field yourself, you simply cannot objectively evaluate the quality of the strategic work or the creative work before you sign on the dotted line. There's just no simple, easy way to know for sure who's truly good at this. Therefore, the most responsible and honest advice we can give is this. If the thinking in this explainer has resonated with you, then your search is over. You have found Studio D.